Routine changes. We use routines in everyday life. For example, here's Emily preparing for a normal day. First, she wakes up. Then, she gets dressed. Thirdly, she brushes her teeth. Lastly, she's ready to leave for school. Now let's look at what would happen if Emily's routine was disrupted. As Emily walks in to brush her teeth, she notices she is out of toothpaste. While this may not be an inconvenience to Emily, for a child with autism, this unexpected problem can cause immediate distress.
So why do children with autism get upset? Routines help children make sense of the world that often seems unpredictable and scary. When these routines and rituals change, they may feel unsafe and insecure. So now let's look at how a child with autism may have a different emotional response when a change in their routine occurs. Little Jimmy knows he goes outside at school every day at noon. Today, it is raining outside and his teacher tells the class they will not be able to go outside. As a result, little Jimmy is confused and becomes distressed.
So I have a parent that says, anytime we ever talk about going to the potty, my child has a meltdown. And I'll say, okay, well, what happens? Where are you? What do you, how do you approach it? That kind of thing. And they'll say, oh, well, we're in the middle of playing with toys, and then I mention bathroom, and I try to take their hand and they start screaming. And I'm like, oh, well, they don't understand what's happening. Like they're in the middle of play and then all of a sudden they hear a word that they may or may not recognize depending on their language level. And then they're going somewhere and they're leaving the toys and it's just, a whole big thing.
Being able to deal with schedule change at any moment is really important for a child with autism. It helps the child prepare for something they weren't expected to have to do that day, like going to the doctor. In addition, it can help the child become more independent and help them to avoid unwanted behaviors in new situations.
So what are some coping techniques? One technique that happens earlier in the process is priming. This is a way to preview a situation a child may struggle with. Visual schedules allow a child to see a step-by-step process of their day. This can help the child feel more in control of the situation.
A lot of our friends, especially with autism, get very rigid in their routine, and it can be really hard whenever something is different or something's changing, so that's why we like to use visuals. So we have as many or as little as we need to use. Some children, the sights and sounds and everything might be so overwhelming, but this might be enough to remind them like, oh, this part is different, but this is the activity that we're doing. So by reviewing it beforehand, you give the kid, it's not as jarring, it's not as unfamiliar, and they can participate a lot more easily because they understand like, oh, this is a whole event that's going to happen. I've read this book before. I know what's going to come next, and it gives them they can be a lot more at peace with new things or even old things that they just need to do a lot of repetitions of like that.
Change can sometimes be a scary thing and can sometimes be even scarier for a child with autism. Therefore, learning the right technique to help a child cope could be greatly beneficial to their everyday lives. Although not all techniques mentioned may work for everyone, finding the right technique for a child with autism can help make their world a better place.